Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast.
Great to be diving in.
Get ready, because today we are plunging headfirst into the amazing world of trees.
That's right.
Forget everything you thought you knew we're about to uncover. The secret lives, the incredible journeys of these towering titans of nature.
Yeah, we've gathered a forest's worth of fascinating stuff, from the tiniest cells right up to the huge ecosystems they build.
And our mission today,
To pull out the most captivating stories, the really surprising truths about trees. Just for you.
think of it like your own personal trek through some kind of enchanted woodland. We'll be your guides.
Pointing out the hidden wonders, connecting the dots.
Okay, let's start simple. Or maybe not so simple. What exactly makes a tree a tree? Sounds basic, right?
It does, doesn't it? At first glance, tall plant, trunk, branches, pretty straightforward.
Like an oak tree in a park. That's definitely a tree, no question.
Exactly. That image is crystal clear for most people. But when you dig into it botanically,
It gets complicated.
it gets a little tangled, yeah. Because sometimes you hear about botanists, including things like, tall palms,
Palms, okay.
tree ferns, even things like bananas and bamboo sometimes get lumped in.
Bananas, bamboo. How does that work? They don't seem very woody.
Well, those broader definitions often just focus on the general form, tall, elongated stem.
Okay.
But if you want to be more precise, scientifically speaking, many look for woody tissue, specifically wood that thickens year after year.
Secondary growth. That's the key thing. The rings.
That's often the key differentiator, yes. That annual increase in girth. It's what gives you those tree rings, like you said.
So that stricter definition would rule out things like bananas then.
Even though they're huge.
Exactly. A banana plant, fascinating as it is basically a giant herb. It doesn't have that true secondary growth, that wood production.
So I have banana plants just pretending? That's fun. Okay, but what about things like Joshua trees? Or palms again? They look sturdy. Good question. They definitely achieve impressive size and structure. They use something called lignification. Their cells harden up.
Right.
It creates support, but it's often called pseudowood. It's not the same structure as, say, an oak or a pine with those distinct growth rings.
Gotcha. Pseudowood.
And get this, even among actual woody trees, there's variation. The Dracaena genus, think dragon trees, they have their own unique way of thickening their stems. Totally different.
So evolution's tried a few different approaches to getting tall. It's not just one single blueprint.
Precisely. Which leads to the question, why bother? Why grow so tall?
Sunlight.
Sunlight. It's almost always about the sunlight. Towering over your neighbors gives you a massive advantage in that race for light, for photosynthesis.
Like getting the front row seat. Makes perfect sense. And trees don't just get tall, they stick around for ages too. Some of them.
Oh, yeah. Longevity is another hallmark. Some species live for hundreds, even thousands of years.
Thousands, imagine that.
It's incredible, witnessing millennia of change. And to do that, they need that structural strength. Specialized cells, thick stems, built for the long haul.
Nature's reinforced concrete. So how does this relate to, like, trees versus shrubs? Is it just size?
Generally, yeah. Trees are usually bigger, single main stem. Shrubs, more multi-stemmed, bushier.
Yes.
But the line can blur. A tree growing in a really harsh, windy spot might end up looking pretty shrubby. It's adaptable.
Right. Form follows function or environment.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that this tree form growing tall, it's evolved independently multiple times in different plant groups.
Like nature just keeps hitting on the same good idea.
It's a fantastic example of parallel evolution, yeah. Converging on a successful strategy.
So how many different types of trees are we actually talking about globally?
The estimates vary a bit, but somewhere between 60,000 and maybe even 100,000 species.
Whoa, 100,000. That's a lot of
Yeah.
trees. What percentage of all plants is that?
It's roughly a quarter of all known living plant species, about 25%.
A quarter. That's huge. And where's most of that diversity concentrated?
Overwhelmingly in the tropics. The warm, wet conditions there are just ideal for supporting a huge variety of tree life.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got this incredible diversity reaching for the sky. But what's happening underground? Let's talk roots.
The hidden half. Roots are so much more than just anchors and straws.
Right. We know they hold the tree up, suck up water and nutrients. but there's more.
Oh, much more. Think about how they develop. Starts with a taproot, maybe, going down deep, but then this huge network of lateral roots spreads out near the surface.
To catch the rain.
Exactly. Maximize water capture. And at the very tips, millions of tiny root hairs massively increases the surface area for absorption. It's like this hidden underground city working away.
And then there's that partnership with fungi I've heard about, myco something.
Mycorrhizae, yes, absolutely crucial. It's a symbiotic relationship, a real win-win.
How does it work?
These fungi weave themselves around, or even into, the tree roots. They act like extensions of the root system, reaching out further into the soil.
Okay.
The tree gives the fungus sugars energy from photosynthesis, and in return, the fungus helps the tree absorb minerals, like phosphorus, that might be hard to get otherwise.
So they're trading resources, like an underground market.
Pretty much. But it gets even more fascinating. These fungal threads, the hyphae, they don't just connect to one tree.
No.
They can link multiple trees together, different trees, sometimes even different species.
You're kidding? Like a network?
Exactly. People call it the wood wide web. It's this vast underground network.
The wood wide web. I love that.
Yeah.
So what goes through this network?
Nutrients, certainly. Sugars can move from a tree that has plenty to one that's struggling.
Yeah.
But also potentially chemical signals.
Signals, like warnings.
There's evidence suggesting that, yes. Like if one tree is attacked by insects, it might send out signals through the network, potentially warning its neighbors to ramp up their defenses.
That is mind-boggling. Seriously. A forest internet.
It really changes how you think about a forest, doesn't it? Not just individual trees, but a connected community.
Absolutely. Okay, I think this is a good moment while we're thinking about these incredible hidden connections to just quickly say, if you're enjoying this deep dive and want to uncover more hidden stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Definitely. Don't miss out on future explorations here on Tell Me More.
Right. Okay, so back to the roots. It's not just fungi they team up with, is it? There's something about nitrogen.
Yes. Some trees, like alders, for example, have another amazing partnership, this time with bacteria. Frankia bacteria.
And what do?
These bacteria live in little nodules on the roots, and they can take nitrogen gas right out of the air, which plants can't normally use, and fix it. Convert it into ammonia, a form the tree can use.
Like a built-in fertilizer factory?
Pretty much. It lets them grow really well, even in soils that are poor in nitrogen. A huge advantage.
Nature's just full of these clever collaborations.
Yeah.
Are there more root tricks? What about inosculation? Sounds weird.
Root inosculation. Yeah, it's basically natural grafting. If roots from two different trees, usually the same species, grow very close together, they can actually fuse, their tissues merge, creating a direct physical link between the trees.
Seriously? They join together?
They do, and water and nutrients can pass between them through this graft. They can form these interconnected colonies.
Wow. Holding hands underground. That's poetic almost.
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes roots even come above ground, right? Aerial roots.
Yep. Different types for different reasons. You see prop roots on things like mangroves or banyan trees. They grow down from branches or the trunk.
For stability.
Exactly. Especially in soft, muddy, or unstable ground. Extra support.
Makes sense.
Then you have nematophores. These are amazing. They grow upwards out of the waterlogged soil or mud
Upwards.
to breathe. In places like mangrove swamps, the soil is often oxygen poor. These roots act like little snorkels, getting oxygen from the air down to the submerged root system.
Snorkels for roots. Okay. And those huge flared roots at the base of some rainforest giants. Buttress roots.
Buttress roots, yes. Another stability adaptation. Rainforest soils are often surprisingly shallow and nutrient poor.
Really? I always imagine them being super deep and rich.
Not always deep. So these buttresses spread out really wide, like massive triangular supports, giving the tree a much broader, more stable base to anchor itself.
Incredible engineering. Okay, let's climb up from the roots to the trunk. The main event, structurally speaking.
The tree's backbone, yeah. Lifting the leaves up to the light, and it's the main highway for transport.
Water and nutrients up, sugars down.
Precisely. And that outer layer, the bark, it's way more than just a covering.
It's the armor, right? Protection. And it looks so different on different trees. Rough, smooth, peeling.
Exactly. Mostly dead cork cells on the outside, waterproof, protective. But it's not totally sealed. It has tiny pores.
Lenticels.
Lenticels, yes. Allows the living tissues inside to exchange gases, to breathe. And yeah, the shedding patterns are fascinating. Think of a paper birch peeling, or the camouflage look of a London plane tree.
And some bark fights back, right? Like pine resin. or rubber tree latex?
Defensive mechanisms. Sticky resin can trap insects or seal wounds. Latex gums up the mouths of herbivores. Very effective.
Don't mess with the bark. Okay, so what's underneath, the living part?
Just inside the bark, you've got the phloem. That's the tissue that transports the sugars made in the leaves downwards to the roots, fruits, storage areas.
The food delivery service.
You got it. And then inside the phloem is the really crucial layer, the vascular cambium.
The growth engine.
That's a good way to put it. It's a thin layer of actively dividing cells. It produces new phloem outwards and new xylem inwards.
And xylem is the wood.
Xylem is the wood. The cambium creates new layers of it each year, and that's what makes the trunk thicker.
And that leads to the sapwood and heartwood difference.
Exactly. The younger outer layers of xylem are the sapwood. That's the active plumbing, carrying water up from the roots, usually lighter in color.
Okay.
As the tree ages, the older inner xylem layers become heartwood. The water-conducting cells often get blocked up, filled with resins and other compounds.
So it's not carrying water anymore.
Generally not, but it becomes much denser, often darker, and provides the main structural support for the tree. It's the strong core.
Sapwood for plumbing, heartwood for strength.
Got it.
And this is where the rings come from.
Yes. Each year, the cambium typically produces a wider, lighter band of early wood in spring when growth is fast, and a narrower, denser band of late wood in summer-autumn. One pair makes an annual ring.
A diary written in wood, telling you about good years, bad years.
Absolutely. Droughts, fires, insect attacks. It can all be recorded in the rings. Dendrochronology, the study of tree rings, is amazing.
And it's crazy how a tree can be totally hollow inside but still be alive and standing.
As long as that outer ring of sapwood, phloem, and cambium is intact, it can often survive just fine, even if the heartwood has completely decayed away. The structure holds.
Incredible resilience. Now, growth isn't constant, is it? There's a rhythm.
Definitely. Especially in places with distinct seasons. Active growth spurts, usually in spring and early summer, followed by periods of rest or dormancy, like in winter.
And they prepare for winter with buds.
Buds are key. They're basically packages protecting the delicate growing tips, the meristems, during harsh conditions or dormancy.
Like little survival pods. What's inside?
Tiny, preformed leaves and stem tissues all wrapped up tightly in protective scales, which are often modified leaves themselves. Tough and waterproof.
Ready to burst open in spring? And they're not just at the tips.
No, you also have axillary buds located in the axil where a leaf stalk joins the stem. These are programmed to potentially grow into side branches.
Ah, that's how the branching structure develops. Are all buds the same?
Mostly similar in function, but some trees, like eucalyptus, have naked buds without those tough scales, usually in milder climates. And some conifers just have hidden growing points among their leaves instead of distinct buds.
Always exceptions.
Yeah.
And then spring arrives.
The Great Awakening. Hormonal changes triggered by lengthening days and warming temperatures cause the buds to swell and burst open.
And the scales fall off.
Yep, leaving behind little bud scale scars on the twig. You can often count these scars to estimate the age of a twig. And then that rapid elongation, the primary growth, kicks off.
Amazing how fast they can shoot up sometimes.
It can be really dramatic, and some trees might even have a second, smaller growth spurt later in the summer. Lammas growth, it's called.
A bonus round. So we have primary growth getting taller and secondary growth getting thicker. Do they ever stop getting taller?
Height growth usually slows dramatically and eventually stops as the tree reaches maturity. But secondary growth, adding girth, can continue, albeit slowly, for the rest of the tree's life. Hundreds, even thousands of years, potentially.
Still growing wider, even if not taller. Okay, let's move up to the leaves, the solar panels.
The energy factories. Their main job is photosynthesis, capturing sunlight, water, and CO2 to make sugars.
And they're arranged so cleverly, aren't they? To maximize light capture without shading each other out too much.
Exactly. Loose arrangement, or phyllotaxy, is often very precise. But leaves are also vulnerable, prime targets for herbivores.
So they need defenses.
Absolutely. Thorns, spines, tough textures, microscopic silica crystals called phytoliths that wear down insect mouthparts,
Ouch.
and chemical defenses, bitter tannins, lignins that make them hard to digest, even outright poisons in some species. It's an arms race.
Constant battle. And the variety of leaf shapes and sizes is just incredible.
Huge diversity, adapted to everything from climate to light levels to predation pressure. Broad leaves, needles, scales.
Conifer needles look so different. Are they fundamentally different inside?
Structurally, they have the same basic parts as broadleaves, just very compacted. It's an adaptation often for conserving water or surviving cold or low nutrient conditions. Very efficient.
And then in autumn, the deciduous trees put on that amazing show.
The fall colors. As days shorten and temperatures drop, chlorophyll production stops. The green fades, revealing the yellow and orange pigments, carotenoids, that were there all along.
And the reds.
Those are often anthocyanins, produced actively in the autumn in response to sugars trapped in the leaf and sunlight. Then, a special layer of cells forms at the base of the leaf stalk.
The decision layer.
Exactly. It weakens the connection, triggered by hormonal changes, specifically a drop in auxin, until the leaf detaches and falls. A clean break.
Smart way to conserve resources over winter, while evergreens just keep theirs.
Evergreens keep their foliage year-round, but individual leaves don't live forever. They're shed and replaced gradually over time, just not all at once.
Gotcha. And some trees flower before the leaves come out?
Yeah, often wind-pollinated trees like oaks or birches. It ensures the pollen can travel freely without leaves getting in the way. Clever timing.
Nature thinks of everything. What about those weird stem leaves? Phylloclades.
Ah, phylloclades. Fascinating stuff. They're flattened stems that have taken over the function of photosynthesis, looking just like leaves, often seen in cacti or plants like butcher's broom. A cool adaptation.
Amazing versatility. Okay, we've covered the main parts. Let's get into reproduction. The cycle of life. Seeds.
Right. Starts with pollination, getting pollen from the male part to the female part.
Wind or animals?
Mostly. Wind is common, especially for conifers and trees like oaks and birches. Animals, primarily insects, but also birds and bats, are key for most flowering trees, attracted by nectar or pollen itself.
And once pollination and fertilization happen, the seed develops. Then it needs to get away. Dispersal.
Crucial step. Avoids competing with the parent, finds new places to grow, and the strategies are incredibly diverse.
Yeah.
Wind dispersal is classic. Seeds with wings, like maples and ash, or plumes, like dandelions or cottonwood. Kapok trees have seeds embedded in fluffy fiber that floats for miles.
Floating away. What else?
Ballistic dispersal. Some pods, like witch hazel or flame trees, dry out and then split open explosively, flinging the seeds away.
Kaboom. Seeds everywhere.
Gravity plays a role too, of course. Heavy nuts just fall. And water is used by some. Alder seeds float. Mangrove fruits are buoyant and sometimes even start germinating on the tree.
Ready to go as soon as they hit the mud.
Exactly. And then there's animal dispersal. Huge category.
Eating fruits and pooping out seeds.
That's a big one. Birds, mammals, eat fleshy fruits. The seeds pass through their digestive tracts, often unharmed, sometimes even scarified, which helps germination, and get deposited far away with a little bit of fertilizer.
Accidental gardeners. What about nuts? Squirrels burying acorns.
Classic example, caching behavior.
Yeah.
Animals like squirrels, jays bury nuts to eat later, they forget some, and boom, new oak tree.
So forgetful squirrels are vital for oak forests.
In many ecosystems, absolutely.
How do conifers do it? With the cones.
Conifer seeds develop inside cones. Usually the cones open when mature, releasing small, often winged seeds for wind dispersal.
Simple enough.
But some are adapted to fire. Jack pine cones, for instance, are sealed shut with resin. They only open after the heat of a forest fire melts the resin.
Wow. So the fire clears the ground and triggers seed release.
Exactly. Perfect timing for the seeds to colonize the newly opened, nutrient-rich ground. Fire is part of their life cycle.
Incredible. And we mentioned the ginkgo before, the living fossil.
Right. Ginkgos have fleshy, often smelly seed coats. And the Needham group has seeds right out on the tips of shoots. Just shows the sheer variety of strategies that evolved over millions of years.
Which brings us nicely to that long history. Where did trees even come from?
Way, way back. The very earliest tree-like plants weren't like modern trees at all. We're talking the Carboniferous period, over 300 million years ago.
What were they like?
Giant tree ferns, towering horsetails, lycophytes, which look like huge club mosses. They formed the vast coal swamps of that era.
Coal swamps. Okay. And then came things like Watiesa.
Watiesa and Archaeopteris were later. in the Devonian. They were crucial transitions. Still reproduced with spores like ferns, but had developed proper woody trunks and branching structures. They looked more like trees.
Bridging the gap.
Exactly. Leading towards the gymnosperms, conifers, cycads, ginkgos, which really took off in the Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs. Ginkgos are a surviving relic from that time.
So conifers ruled for a long time.
They did. But then, during the Cretaceous period, something revolutionary happened. The evolution of angiosperms, the flowering plants.
And flowering trees eventually took over.
They diversified rapidly and became dominant in most ecosystems by the Tertiary period. Most of the trees we see today are angiosperms.
A botanical revolution. But climate change, like ice ages, must have affected them.
Massively. During glacial periods, ice sheets covered huge areas, forcing forests to retreat south or towards the equator. Then, as the ice melted, they'd gradually migrate back. These cycles really shaped current distributions.
A constant ebb and flow. So where are we now? How many trees globally?
Estimates suggest trillions of trees worldwide. Trillions. With the highest biodiversity still in the tropics, particularly South America. But huge numbers also in the boreal forests across the northern hemisphere.
Trillions. It's hard to even grasp. But numbers have gone down because of humans.
Significantly. Since the advent of agriculture and widespread deforestation, the total number of trees globally has decreased substantially. It's a major ecological concern.
Right. And that ecological role is so vital. They're not just standing there. They're creating entire worlds.
Absolutely. They're foundation species. Forests provide habitats for countless organisms. Think of all the things living on a tree. Epiphytes like mosses, ferns, orchids, lichens, fungi.
A whole ecosystem just on the bark and branches.
Then there's the shade, the leaf litter on the forest floor, the decaying wood, all creating niches for insects, fungi, small mammals, amphibians. Trees structure the entire environment.
And they do so much for the planet, right? Stabilizing soil.
Preventing erosion, moderating climate, storing carbon, huge amounts of carbon supporting biodiversity, regulating water cycles. The list is immense. They're critical for ecosystem balance.
And specific trees support specific creatures, like the oak example.
Yes, native trees often have incredibly complex relationships with local insects and other wildlife that have co-evolved over millennia. An English oak might support hundreds of insect species, while a non-native tree planted nearby might support only a handful.
Highlights the importance of native species. And mangroves actually build land.
In a way, yes. Their dense root systems trap sediment washed down by rivers or carried by tides, gradually building up the land and protecting coastlines from erosion and storms. They create unique, vital ecosystems.
Truly ecosystem engineers. Which leads us to how we use trees. The human connection seems endless.
It really is. From our most basic needs onwards. Food, obviously. Fruits are a big one.
Apples, oranges, bananas. But much more, right?
Oh, yes. Dates, figs, olives, staples for millennia. Palm oil, cocoa, coffee, huge global commodities from tree fruits or seeds, plus countless wild fruits gathered from forests.
And nuts. Walnuts, almonds, pecans, cashews. Packed with nutrition. And oils from them, too.
Definitely. And don't forget sap. Maple syrup is the classic example from sugar maples. Birch sap, too, though you need a lot more of it to make syrup. About 100 gallons of sap for 1 gallon of syrup.
100 to 1. Wow. And spices. Cinnamon bark, cloves, nutmeg.
All spice berries. Many key spices come directly from trees, and honey often gets its flavor from tree blossoms.
Even leaves and flowers. Elderflower cordial.
Candied plum petals, bay leaves for cooking, kaffir lime leaves, tea leaves, of course.
And smoking food with wood. That's an ancient technique.
Hot smoking, cold smoking, adds flavor, preserves food. Trees have fed us in so many ways and provided fuel.
Firewood. Still essential for billions of people for cooking and heating.
And charcoal, made from wood. An ancient fuel, still important.
And then there's timber, building material supreme.
Absolutely fundamental. From log cabins to modern engineered wood like glulam beams, furniture, tools, ships, bridges, and paper, of course. Softwoods from conifers, hardwoods from broadleaves, used for different things.
Its uses are almost infinite, but it's not just practical stuff, is it? Art.
Trees have always inspired artists. Paintings, sculptures, and living art forms like bonsai or tree shaping. Those living root bridges in India are incredible examples of shaping living trees.
Working with the tree over generations. Amazing.
Yeah. And the bark itself has so many uses. Cork from cork oaks.
Wine stoppers. Insulation.
Tannins from bark for tanning leather. And medicine. Quinine from cinchona bark for malaria. Aspirin's precursor from willow bark. The cancer drug paclitaxel from yew trees.
Nature's pharmacy, hidden in the bark. And native peoples use birch bark for canoes, containers.
All sorts of things. And bark chips as mulch in gardens today. It's incredibly versatile.
And we plant trees just for beauty, right? Ornamental trees.
For aesthetics, shade in parks and gardens. Street trees are so important in cities, cooling, cleaning the air, reducing noise, improving well-being. Tree planting initiatives are huge now.
Urban heroes. Any other odd uses? Latex.
Natural rubber from the latex of the para rubber tree changed the world. Resin from pines for varnish, rosin for bows. Amber is fossilized tree resin. Essential oils like eucalyptus, camphor.
The list just goes on and on. But our relationship isn't always positive. Trees face threats.
Individually, from disease, pests, drought, storms, old age making them hazardous, and collectively, many species face conservation threats.
Extinction risk.
Yes, a worryingly high percentage of tree species are considered threatened due to deforestation, climate change, invasive species, and disease. Conservation is critical.
And beyond the threats, there's this deep sense of reverence in many cultures. Mythology.
Absolutely. Ancient Celts revered sacred groves. Norse mythology has Yggdrasil, the world tree connecting realms. Hindu traditions have Kalpavrusha, the wish-fulfilling divine tree, the tree of peace for the Iroquois Confederacy, the tree of knowledge.
Deep symbolism. Trees as sacred connectors, sources of life, wisdom.
And personal connections too, like the Ubangui people associating a tree with each child. It shows that profound link.
Which makes the record-breaking trees even more awe-inspiring, the giants, the ancients.
They really push the limits. There's a theoretical maximum height, maybe 130 meters, due to water transport limits.
And the tallest known.
Hyperion, a coast redwood in California, over 115 meters tall, just staggering. The tallest broad-leaved is Centurion, a mountain ash in Tasmania, around 100 meters.
Almost as tall. And biggest overall.
By volume, that's usually General Sherman, a giant sequoia, also in California, just immense mass.
At oldest?
The verified record holder is an unnamed Great Basin bristlecone pine in California, over 5,000 years old.
5,000 years. Older than the pyramids.
It's mind-blowing. Its location is kept secret for protection, and for the widest trunk, the Árbol del Tule in Mexico, a Montezuma cypress, is just enormous in girth.
These incredible specimens really put things in perspective.
They absolutely do. They remind us of the resilience, the history, and the sheer wonder of trees.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's so clear trees aren't just scenery. They're living, breathing entities with complex lives, crucial roles, and deep ties to us.
From those hidden root networks, the wood wide web, right up to the highest leaves reaching for sun, they're packed with incredible stories. We hope we've sparked some curiosity today.
Maybe given you a new appreciation for that tree outside your window. What part of their world stood out most to you? What makes you see them differently now?
Because this is really just scratching the surface of their amazing story.
And hey, if you enjoyed journeying with us into the world of trees, please do hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss where we go next on Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast.
We'd love to have you along for more explorations.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. That 5,000-year-old bristlecone pine. It stood watching while empires rose and fell, while human history unfolded. What silent stories are still locked away inside its ancient rings? Something to think about.